Hello, you've reached the GENART Podcast. I'm your host, Camille Roux, welcoming you to our third episode. Generative art is a challenging field, requiring both technical expertise and artistic vision. The goal is generally to create a generator that produces varied pieces, making sure each one looks good. As artists, we have to face many challenges to achieve this balance. Today, I want to talk about the challenges with you. What has been the biggest challenge you have faced as a generative artist? How did you overcome it? I'm eager to hear your stories and insights. Please share your experiences by leaving a message after the beep. Thank you.
Hey there, Peter Pasma here. You're asking what's the hardest thing I've ever done, and I think it's making sculpture, because, well, I distinctly remember me tweeting. I couldn't find a tweet that said, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I don't think I really had that feeling that bad ever since. There were a lot of challenges. I was working with shaders for the first time, or at least working with shaders for the first time in a sense that they had to run on other people's computer as well. Compatibility was a huge issue, and trying to get it to work on the iPhone, and there's even a bug in it. All the sculptures on Android are silver. I couldn't test it because I had an old phone, and I kind of figured that sculpture wouldn't work on phones anyway. It was and then there was, of course, a part where I was figuring out like advanced lighting calculations, and I was like discovering new techniques and exploring new formulas like pretty far into the project. So and then there was, of course, the fact that there was not going to be a deadline, but then suddenly there was a deadline. Which caused a lot of stress, and but I'm super proud of the end result, and I'll just plug the website. It is called sculpturen.nl. That is SKULPTEREN.nl. I hope I spelled that right. Anyway, so much for my message, and bye.
Hello, Camille. This is Daniel, leaving you a message about your question on what's our biggest generative art challenge. Yeah, I've been thinking about it, and I guess that you can frame it in different ways. There are different kinds of challenges, so I will share just a handful that I can think of. So I guess the most obvious ones are probably technical. This is a discipline that has a very strong technical component. So in my case, at least, I usually struggle a little bit with the techniques and the algorithms that I need to put to use. I think that it always happens in all projects that I somehow manage to get myself into trouble trying to use stuff that I don't know about, that I need to learn about. And this has obviously an impact on the schedule or the time frame of the project. But I'm not sure if I would call that a challenge. Well, I guess it's a challenge because I need to find out, and sometimes it's hard, but I see it as a pretty nice problem or pretty nice challenge to tackle. Another one is probably the commercial challenge, I guess. I think that both full-time artists and part-time artists struggle with this. We try to focus on what we do in our art, techniques, our message, our growth as artists, and having to deal with selling our art or putting our work out there for people to find it and promote it and all that kind of stuff. I guess that maybe some people find it a little bit easier just for a natural tendency, or maybe they just get used to it. I still find it somewhat hard. Sometimes I really feel very extrovert and I publish a lot, that kind of work in progress stuff and thoughts and that kind of thing. But some of the times I don't feel like that, meaning I'm more introvert in a way and just focus on what I'm doing, and I don't really feel it's honest for me to publish stuff sometimes. And I know that, that's not what you're supposed to do. I mean, the algorithm or algorithms on social networks, for instance, they seem to reward you being consistent and being always there and replying to messages very promptly, that kind of thing. And I guess that, yeah, that's true to some extent, but it has a price, right? I mean, you need to dedicate time to it, and especially you need to dedicate energy, mental energy. So yeah, I struggle with that a little bit, but if I don't really feel like I want to do it, I prefer just not to do it, let it sit, and at some point I know that I will feel again like doing that kind of thing. But yeah, in terms of challenge, that feels like a little bit of a challenge to me. Another thing that I think that I struggle with somewhat or to some extent is this thing about having sort of a personal style or having a voice, like they call it. I understand the value of it in terms of being recognized and being consistent and all of that. But at the same time, I find it really hard to kind of settle into some sort of stylistic or conceptual framework. I mean, I do what I do because I enjoy it. I love experimenting. I love learning, trying things out, which by definition means, I guess, that you're trying things out here and there. And I don't want it to end being like that. And I'm really curious about how other people deal with this, because to me, yeah, it sounds like a very difficult thing to do, and not difficult in the sense that it's something that I want to do and I don't know how to do, but rather that I don't really feel I want to do that kind of thing, right? Like, what does that mean to settle into a style or into a building my own voice? That necessarily leave things out, and I don't feel like I want to do that. But at the same time, I understand the value of that approach. So that's something that I have in my mind that pops up here and there, and yeah, I don't think I have solved that at all. I'm not sure how that will evolve, but yeah, by now I think that I will just keep doing what I like, what I feel like I want to do, and if that has a price in terms of not being too consistent or not building a body of work that that it's coherent and all of that, that's what it is. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks a lot for the opportunity of sharing this and letting the community have this space. It's really, really useful and really interesting. So yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Woke up to the hum of a cold machine, cold in my veins, living the dream. Algorithms whisper like ghosts in the night, wrestling with the dark until I find the light. Promotions a chain pulling tight on my chest, clicks and likes, they put me to the test. A million voices but they don't know my name, drowning in the numbers, chasing that fame. Generations of cold, riding my soul. In the whispering circuits, I find my road. Lost in the pixels, in the art I create. In the tangled maze, I find my fate.
Hi, Camille. It's yourself. Um, for me, I think the biggest challenge for a long time had been to know which direction to take. I started generative art during playing with P5 after seeing a lot of artwork I liked on Instagram in 2021. And yeah, I was just playing with math, with code, and it was very fun to discover this world very naively. And after I post some artwork on Ikeknunk, but with no goal in mind. Same when I began in on FXH. Yeah, I was playing a few days on some code, posting it, and see what's happened. And yeah, everything was without goal. And the year later, I tried to work more my project, spend more time on it, and yeah, it was harder because I couldn't do anything I wanted anymore. I have to make a lot of choice, and it wasn't easy because um, deciding which direction to take was also accept to not to explore a lot of other possible choices. And it was hard to decide because I like to improvise, so I don't know where I go most of the time when I'm working on a project. And yeah, so it's very difficult for me to know which is the best decision to take at the moment. And the best answer to that I found is to have a theme, to know why I'm doing this art, and this simplify all the decision. On my last solo project, unreleased yet, I focused on the concept of resilience, making a reference of some health difficulties I had in the past. And it simplified a lot because a good decision was a decision that illustrates my health disease. And the closest I go to what I want to represent, the best my choice was. So yeah, it simplified a lot, and yeah, adding a meaning to the project. And moreover, I'm very happy of the result because it's not just a technical or graphic challenge. It's also a big part of me inside this project. And I didn't thought to that before, but in fact, it changed a lot of things. And I really love this project, and I hope to drop it very soon and to share it with everyone here. But yeah, well, the best thing was to make choice, and it's probably something I struggle to do anywhere, even outside of the art space. I'm not keen on engagement, and choices are always hard for me. So art, it's the same for art, and yeah, adding a meaning was and is a very good help for me to make the choice. So hope this could be inspire you. Bye bye.
Hi, it's Haiver. I love this question from Owen Moore about what's my greatest challenge as a generative artist. My greatest challenge is also my greatest joy, which is making color palettes. When I was working on my project Fractured Time, which I released about 2 years ago, I got to a point in the project where I had fine-tuned all of the drawing pieces, but I need to go back and make new palettes. I'd been working with just some temp ones while I worked on the form of the piece. And to do that, I put on a pair of headphones and just kind of locked in for 5 hours where I listened to the same song over and over and over again. Technically, it was different songs because the song is called The Waters of March. I knew it as an Art Garfunkel cover that shows up in the credits for the movie The Worst Person in the World. Beautiful Oscar-winning film. There are dozens and dozens of covers of this song, and it's a beautiful patter song. The lyrics go, a stick, a stone, it's the end of the road. It's the rest of a stump, it's a little alone. It's a sliver of glass, it is life, it's the sun. It is night, it is death, it's a trap, it's a gun. The oak when it blooms, a fox in the brush. The nod of the wood, the song of a thrush. The wood of the wing, a cliff, a fall, a scratch, a lump, it is nothing at all. That back and forth kind of reminds me of the other music I love to listen to when I work, which is Philip Glass, which is quite rhythmic and repetitive. And that just gets my mind into the groove. And so 5 hours of The Water of March playing over and over again, I managed to make 32 palettes in a single sitting. And I went on to use half of those palettes again in my follow-up project, Lace Factory. One of the funny things is right at the end of the process of making all these palettes, I suddenly realized that my monitor was calibrated for working with photo prints, which is quite a bit warmer than the average person's monitor. Most people have their monitor calibrated to 6500 Kelvin, D65, and mine's calibrated 1,000 points lower at D55. That's to emulate the warmth of the paper that I would print onto. But that meant that everybody else would see these palettes that I'd fine-tuned for so many hours as much cooler than I had intended. And after I worked through the panic of that moment, I suddenly remembered another technique from photography and a tool that's available in Photoshop, which is a warming filter. You can just put a bath of color over the entire image. So in P5, I drew a rectangle as the very last step after everything was placed on the canvas. Just a tiny few percentage points of this yellowish orange color. And that warmed up the image. And it took the additive blend mode that I was working with, which pushes all of the overlapping shapes and colors toward white. It gave it a little bit of warmth, which I would like to think is a bit of a signature touch in how I approach color in my pieces. And that came about only because I made a mistake and I had to figure out how to solve it.
Hey Camille, it's Cari and sham. Thanks for this question. The biggest challenge I face as a generative artist in my work is particularly the moment of transferring the project that I'm working on to the platform that I'm minting to. And there's always a translation that needs to happen to get it to work on the platform, such as FX hash. And sometimes it's not exactly like what it was when I was running it in my browser. So there's like these fine tunings and adjustments, and there's not always the opportunity to get it exactly how it was. So there's this like transformation that the project takes. Those are the challenging moments for me. I don't really think that this is a challenge that is something to be overcome. It's more of a moment of surrender to finding that compromise in the work and the translation of it to the platform. And then it becomes something new and different. So there is this birth of like a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis. It's like, oh, there it is. There's the work as it stands on this platform. So that's exciting to witness.
Hey, Camille, it's Haiver. I am just tickled by these funny little songs you've been making for the podcast. I hope they just keep getting weirder and weirder. I can't wait to see what genres you come up with next.
the wild weeds grow, echoes in the silence, colors in his night, rhythm so bizarre, and then he finds his kind. Weird sounds, Haiver loves, never normal, never plain. Harmonies from outer space, in his heart they reign.
Bonjour Camille, c'est Jonathan Barbeau de Québec. So I'm gonna answer your message or your question, I must say. So what's my biggest generative art challenge? For me, it's definitely more about the concepts and the conceptualization of my art. Since I have since I'm coding intuitively, did that mean that when I start, I don't really know what I want to do or what I want to explore? Sometimes I'm gonna explore maybe just like a basic thing, like I'm gonna do something with noise, for example. But yeah, it's just that it's very like it's thin subject. So what I'm struggling with, and I think this is my biggest challenge, is to bring this to another level, like to share a collection and say, hey, this is what I did, and to explain what it is other than this is cool, so to, build a narrative, build a concept, develop what I want to say with my heart visually, and technically. So yeah, and this is still ongoing, so maybe I cannot answer how I overcame it, because I don't think I did yet. But this, for me, this is quite a challenge. I know some other artists that they start with an idea and say, oh, maybe I want to represent struggles about this and that. And I'm going to illustrate this between two things that I'm going to represent with my art and stuff. But for me, it's very more like, oh, I'm going to code this. Oh, it's a circle. And oh, when I make it do this, it looks nice. Oh, now it looks like a face. So like with my recent collection, it doesn't have a name yet, but this generator is creating faces. Not all the time, but maybe 60% of the time. And they're expressing these kind of emotion. And now I really want to dig deeper in this and build some meat around it, like to express something like a bit more personally for me, and to share a story with my art. This is something I'm struggling with, and this is something I'm working on right now. And yeah, and it also for me kind of, I don't know how to say this, but shake my confidence about long form. And I think it's a lot harder for long form generative art to maybe build a story, because the generator is, doing his thing, which is generating stuff. And sometimes, somebody could mint a piece, let's say number 294, and then it just doesn't represent what you're meaning. It doesn't represent your vision with the whole thing. And for me, it's kind of a turnoff, I could say. Yeah, I think this is kind of a turnoff, that maybe a curated collection or a series of one-of-one, or just one of one, could, I think it's more easy to develop a story, a meaning, through a curated set of outputs. And this removes a bit of the technicality also around the whole thing about the code behind the generator and stuff like that, and make the focus more on what I want to say visually to you or to any other people who see my art, And if I want to, I don't know, start to sell prints and start to show my art physically in galleries and stuff like that, it needs to have like something to draw people to it and then keep them there and explain what I want to say with this. And if I just put like 500 outputs from a generator out there, then surely it's going to be less meaningful, I think. So yeah, it's a bit philosophical, I think, maybe, but for me it's really, the struggle is really like to make it something more sorry, I'm looking for my words, thoughtful, like more, like, you know, more focused. Share stories, share a path, share my struggles, you know, make it personal, not just, hey, look at this cool thing I made with code, it's like a fluvial and yada yada yada. So yeah, that for me, my biggest struggle is to tell a story and maybe make people relate to my art. And this is still something I need to overcome right now. And I'm taking the summer right now to a little pause this summer to think about this and work on my artist statement and what I want to say visually to, you know, to the people that follows me and to myself. So yeah, I hope it wasn't too much. I hope it wasn't all around the place and it made sense. So yeah, have a nice one. Goodbye, Camille.